In Job chapter 1. Appreciate everyone that had a part in the service. Today we had a lot of gears going. It went off real good, so thank you for that. We sat here and we tried to change the bulletin and get our outline, get everything in that, and it reminded me of a few bulletin bloopers that I've read recently. One said that there'll be a potluck prayer after the service today, potluck and prayer after the service today, and it said the potluck, the way it said it was, potluck prayer and medication to follow, not meditation instead on there. So you have to be careful how we read some of that. I like this one right here. Instead of saying, pray for the sick that is in our church, it says, please pray for those that are sick of our church. So maybe that won't apply to us. And this is one of my favorite ones right here. It said, the low self-esteem group will be meeting today at 2 o'clock. Would y'all please use the back door? So their self-esteem's low to start with. Now they're making them go to the back door. I don't know about this. But all this is to say, let me tell you, whether it is a graduate embarking on their future, whether it is some of us who have lost loved ones on Memorial Day fighting for our country, whether it is anything in your life that is going on, the question for us today, and I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people who go to church. There's a lot of people who are faithful to church. But when something major happens to them, it crushes them and they lose their faith. And so let me ask you this question. Is God enough? Now let me answer that question. Yes, okay? Yes, He is enough. Is God enough? Well, then let me ask it this way. In our society, there are people trying all kinds of things. Drugs, alcohol, world, flesh, devil, all these things. But let me tell you, do we have to have those things, or is God enough? God is enough. In Psalm 78:19, it says, they spake against God. They're out here, they're hungry, they're in a desert place, and they ask a question. It says, can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Yes, okay? Yes. If you've got a question that says, can God, the answer is yes. But the church today is full of people who doubt God. I think sometimes there are people that are not in church that have more faith in the people in church than the people in church have faith in God. And that is a sad condemnation of us. But let me ask you again, is God enough for what you're going through? Yes. Is God enough for what you're going to go through? Yes. Is God enough for what you just went through? Yes. There are times that get rough. Y'all know that? Anybody ever been through some rough time? Okay? Let me give you some encouragement. You'll be there again. Okay? You'll be there again. All right? So let me remind you who will be there with us, during it. It's God. And is God enough? Yes, He is enough. Times will get bad, then they'll get worse, then they'll get worser. Good Alabama word. Now, they will get terrible. Let me tell you, if we live in the last days, and I think we're at the beginning of the last days, do you know how bad it's actually going to get on Christians in those last days? Thank the Lord I'm a premillennialist, and I think the Lord is going to take us out of the worst stuff. Amen. But anyway, as we begin to look at this, times are going to get rough. Job chapter 1. You talking about getting rough? Why do we always use, one person usually comes up when we talk about having it rough. Y'all remember? Job. There was a man in the land of Uz, verse 1, whose name was Job. Now, this man was mature or perfect and upright. He was a good man. He tried to do what was right. Now, he's not a perfect man, but he was a good man. And he was one that did what with God? Feared God. Now, let me tell you something. The church and the people of the church today do not have a healthy fear of God anymore. See, we won't get into that now. And one that feared God and he eschewed evil. Evil, get away from me. No. I think sometimes the church needs to realize it's kind of like having a kindergartner in school. No. Parents have gotten tired of saying no. Y'all know that? You been to Walmart with some brat running around there? I'm going to go to jail one of these days because I'm going to take my belt off and whoop them, I think, sometime. I'm telling you. Is God enough? Because it's supposed to get rough. Because next generation, I'm going to tell you. Now, this just between me and y'all, not on TV or anything here, okay? I can just tell y'all here. I got a lot of whoopings. And I got some for something I didn't do. But I got away with a lot more than, you know what I'm saying? But nowadays, somebody can complain, well, I didn't do it. Well, you did it last time. That's close enough. I didn't have time to whoop you last time. I didn't have time to do it. And, you know, and it's all like, I didn't do nothing this time. Now, but I'm going to tell you, if you're real good at being bad, they'll call you out when you're sitting there doing nothing. Yeah, you ain't doing nothing. You're up something. Now you're pretending like you didn't do nothing. I really didn't do anything. But we're known. Even a child is known by their ways. Amen. So Job, was he a bad man? Was he a good man? Did he fear God? Was he upright? Did he hate evil? Well, the wheel's fixing to fall off of Job. Because I'm going to tell you, all that don't guarantee that you're going to have it made, okay? It does not mean that you're going to live forever. It does not mean you're not going to have disease. It does not mean that your children are going to act right. It does not mean anything that we try to put in it. It just means that you living for God because you fear God, you love God, and you hate evil. And one of these days we're going to go to heaven and we're going to influence people while we're right here. And so when we look at it, let's look at Job 1 verse 5. And it was so when the days of their feasting were going about, his sons and daughters, they were having all these different feasts. And it says, Job sent and sanctified them and rose up early in the morning. He's praying for his children. He got up early, he offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. He didn't just do one and say, pray for all my kids. You know, he did every individual one. Now look at how he prayed. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Now, my children, you know, preachers' children, they got it rough, you know what I mean? Because I was just thinking of this, and I said, I don't have to wonder if my children have sinned. I just need to pray for them and their sin, you know, because I know their daddy. And he needs praying, you know. So here we are, and he is praying in case they've sinned in their heart and they haven't even acted on it yet. He's praying. Man, wouldn't that be good? Well, parents nowadays would say, my children are good children, and they would never lie. Until they get in trouble. And then, how often did he do this? Thus did Job what? Continually. Look at Job chapter 1, verse 20 and 21. Then Job arose and rent his mantle, shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshiped. Now, he's still worshiping God, but something has changed before verse 20. What's happened here? He's lost everything. You notice he's still doing the same thing? He's praying. He's living upright. And so here it is. Look at verse 21. And he said, naked I came into my mother's womb, and naked shall I return hither. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Do you see any why? I'm telling you, as a pastor now, almost continually, people are saying, why did God take my daughter? Why did God do that? Why did God do that? Why is the wrong question. How am I going to get through this? And it's with God. That's how. So we're asking the wrong question. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. And then he lost everything. Now I'm sure his children was the most priority there. But he lost all of his donkeys, his camels, and everything else too. So he ain't got to ride back to town. And so here he is, and he says, blessed be the name of the Lord. Woohoo! It doesn't matter if our health is bad. It doesn't matter if we're on a time frame as we get older. If we live to be 120, that day's going to come sooner or later. And so when we start looking at it, and you say, God's going to help you through this. Well, here are some things that I hear a lot. Well, preacher, you don't know what I've been through. I know what Jesus has been through. And I know a lot of people before me and you that God has helped through, okay? And then maybe you say, do you know what I have to put up with? Jennifer, no amen. But we're bad about saying these kind of things, aren't we? You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I have to put up. Do you know how hard it is for me? Let me tell you something. This life is full of sin, and we're going to struggle here because we're not made for this world. We're made for the next one, okay? And so when you start seeing this, man, and then it's like Job had some close people that we'll talk about later who said, do you serve God for nothing? Satan asked for Job individually. And so I want to get to the point right here, and I want us to look at some areas, sometimes maybe that we might face, and ask the question, is God enough? So I want y'all to help me with it. When I say, is God enough, from now on, I want you to say yes, okay? All right, let's test. Is God enough?
Yes.
Are you sure God is enough?
Yes.
Is God enough?
Yes.
Great. Here we go. Number one. Is God enough in the middle of demonic attack?
Yes.
Woo! I'm going to tell you, if you have not felt the attack of the demons of hell and Satan himself, you better count yourself very fortunate. Because let me tell you, I don't know if it's part of being a preacher or just being me, but I'm going to tell you, there's some demons assigned my case every day. And they love doing all kinds of different things. But we don't have time to get into that. But let's look at Job 1 and verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And notice who came. Satan came along with them. All right? So Satan still having access, okay? And let's look at verses 7 through 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Where all have you been doing? To and fro, you know. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Okay. Now, do you think he's got a path at your house? I just want you to think here. And look at verse 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, now, I want you to realize this, because most Christians do not understand this. Why is he going to and fro? To tempt people, okay? To make people fall. To hurt people, okay? Now, notice this, because it's going to knock some of your socks off, because maybe you haven't never seen this. The Lord said unto Satan. Did y'all get that? The Lord said. Have you ever thought about tempting Job? Did y'all get that? Who came up with the idea? Satan or Lord? I want y'all to think about that for a minute. Do you think God is enough if the Lord's the one who sicked him on you? Yes. Thank you. Y'all did good right there. All right. Okay. Have you considered my servant Job? Right there in verse 8. That there is none like him on the earth. Now I'm going to tell you what our mentality in the church is. The devil is after the sorriest person in Lenore County. He already got him. He's already got him. Do you know, right here, the best person in God's eyes, man, that's a good recommendation right there, isn't it? I'm going to tell you what. Job, you're doing good. I'm going to sick Satan on you. Now let me look. Let's keep going right here. Have you considered Job? There's none like him in the earth. He is a mature, perfect, and upright man, one that feareth God and eschews evil. Is that what we just heard about him in verse 1? Now who's saying the same thing? God himself, the Lord. And then verse 9 says, then Satan answered the Lord and said. Satan don't even want to. You get this? Doth Job fear God for naught? It's like, he knows you got his back. He knows you're with him. Look at verse 10. Hast not thou made a hedge about him? Now let me tell you something. Most Christians think because they love the Lord that they got a hedge about him. If you got a hedge about you, it's because of prayer. You got it? Because I'm going to tell you right here. Hast thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he has on everything? Can you see Satan whining? Look, I've tried, old Job, man. I'm telling you, you've got him covered on all bases. Thou hast blessed the work of his hands. You have blessed the substance. You've increased the land. And then Satan has a good idea in verse 11. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he has, all at the same time. Have you ever been there? If one more thing happens, you been there? Joe's been handling them. Bop, bop, yep, take care of that one, take care of that one, take care of that one. But now, there's a train load coming in, okay? Touch all that he hath, and he will curse you to your face. Did you hear what he said? Satan says, if you will touch everything all at once, he will curse you to your face. And look at verse 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in your power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand, talking about death. Don't kill him. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord and immediately was in the presence of Job. Okay? And so you see here, let me just ask, because that's kind of heavy reading right there. Is God enough? All right, I caught you already. Okay, that's good, good. So what's happening right now with the Lord's approval? Save his life, but Job is going to get a demonic blitz. He's going in a no-hurry offense of trying to destroy him from everything. I mean, things is fixing to look bad. It kind of reminded me of the young naval student was being put to the paces by a sea captain. And the captain said, what would you do if a sudden storm sprang up at starboard? He said, I'd throw an anchor, sir. And then he said, what would you do if another storm sprang up at aft? And he said, throw out another anchor, sir. And he's like, I'm going to get him, I'm going to get him. He said, and if another terrific storm sprang up forward, what would you do? The young boy said, throw out another anchor, sir. And the captain looked at him and said, hold on. Where are you getting all these anchors from? And the young boy said, same place you're getting all these storms from. Let me tell you something. God is enough, and He's got an anchor for every one of them. And we need to realize that. God is enough. He is enough in demonic attack. Number 2, is God enough in the middle of deficit accounts? Yes, He is. We ain't going to get in great detail on the finances part of it. But if you look at the latter part of verse 3, it's how so this man was the greatest of all of them. He had riches. And though he's older now, he's got children. He's got 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 oxen and donkeys. And how many did he have this morning when he got up? None. Is God enough when you're in the red in a deficit account? I can vouch for that. You been there? Amen. Third point. Is God enough in the middle of death and anguish? Yes, He is. You see, he had all this stuff. Now he's lost all of it. Look at verse 7. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it. He's looking, now he's found Job, and he takes all of his children. Look at verse 11. He says, Move your hand. He's going to curse you to your face. Let me tell you something. I think sometime when it involves our children, we get a little emotional. And that's fitting. But God didn't change just because the strategy changed and now it's unfair on our children, right? You see, people are going to die as long as sin is in this world. Some of them are going to be you and I. Some of them's going to be our children. Some of them's going to be our friends and our family. There's going to be people with death and anguish. There's going to be some hard times. And when we begin to look at this, we must realize I'm here and I'm going to make the best of this situation for the glory of God. I cannot bring anybody back alive. Okay? Jesus can. And I still believe in miracles. I believe He can. But the fact is, if somebody dies, and it is beyond our circumstances of what we can do to help, well then, it's kind of like David. David's little baby is dying, it's sick. Y'all remember the story? And man, he's tore all up. And then servants wouldn't even talk. You know, they're like, he's not good. It's terrible. It's bad. And he said, what y'all whispering about? You know, and nothing. Y'all been there? And then, of course, the baby died. And then he gets up, he washes himself, he gets back to being the king, doing the stuff that he needs to do. And people are saying, well, you just lost your baby. What's wrong with you? Now, everybody deals with this stuff differently, okay? And he said, there ain't nothing I can do now. He's gone. They're gone. They're gone. What I can do now is be what God put me here on this world to do. God is enough, and I know. I wanted to pray that the baby would live, but it didn't live, and so now I've got to go on. Well, let's look at the fourth point. Is God enough in the middle of disease and affliction? Yes, He is. Look at Job chapter 2, verse 7 and 8. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet unto the crown of his head. Woo! And he took him a broken pot to scrape himself. And he sat down among the ashes. Poor old Job. You ever had that itch with them scabs and stuff? I could just see, man, it's like he got them from his feet to the top of his head. I mean, Job's lost his family. He's lost his livelihood. He doesn't understand, but he's trusting God. And he says, is God enough in the middle of this disease, in the middle of this affliction? Is God enough? Yes, He is. And you see that He is over and over. Let's look at verses, instead of just that, let's go to verse 4 where it says, skin for skin. All that a man hath will he give for his life. Satan saying, if I can get to bothering him, yeah, he did pretty good with the death. He did pretty good with the demonic attack. He says, but let me get on to his body. He's like, all right, you said I couldn't touch him. Let me do something else now. Let me attack him. And so you see, he attacked him. Has Job cursed him to his face? Now, I'm going to tell you there's somebody in his family, and that brings up the last point, that told him to curse God and die. Have you ever been living for God and some well-meaning, good, deep, spiritual Christian tell you something stupid? I have. I've had some terrible advice before. I was like, the Lord brought me here. Why should I try something else now? You know, that kind of thing. Well, our last point. Is God enough in the middle of doubt and accusation? Yes, He is. There will be people that will doubt you. There will be people that will accuse you. There will be people that will alienate you. There will be people who will misjudge you. There will be people who will gossip about you in the name of a prayer request sometime. And so here we are. He is alone. He is scraping himself. Look at verse 9 and 10 of Job chapter 2. 9 and 10. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, verse 10, you speak as one of the foolish women speak. Woo! What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? Bad things are going to happen. In all this did Job not sin with his lips. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of this evil that was come upon him, and it's a whole message in itself, but Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, they come to encourage Job. Y'all have any of those encouraging friends? Stab him in the back, judging him. You sinned, that's why all this has come on you. So let me ask you quick fire as we get to our conclusion. Is God enough? Is God enough in the middle of demonic attack? Is God enough in the middle of deficit accounts? Is God enough in the middle of death and anguish? Is God enough in the middle of disease and affliction? Is God enough in the middle of doubt and accusation? Well, there's 3 reasons why I believe that God is enough. And we won't have a whole sermon, but let's, in conclusion. One reason why God is enough, no matter what you're battling today or tomorrow, is He is omnipotent. He has all the power. God is enough. Satan had to ask permission. You see that? God is still on His throne. God is not only omnipotent, but He is omniscient. God knows everything. He's all powerful, and He knows everything. And then God is everywhere at the same time. He is omnipresent. That is why God is enough. We are none of these. That's why we question God. Okay? And so when we began to look at this, the world is hungry for food, but they're full of other things. It's time that we said, I've had enough of that, and I'm going to trust God. Satan is defeated. In conclusion here, as we look at it in chapter 42, verse 10 and verse 12. And it said in verse 10, and the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Now notice he's praying for his friends. He's praying for his friends. He's praying for his friends. His friends that have been zero help to him. Okay? His friends who have judged him. His friends who have used him. But also the Lord gave Job. Anybody notice what it says next? Twice as much as he had before. Do you know God knows the end of the story? He gave him twice. You notice I always joke about it, and I don't take this too at heart, because I thought we might need a little joke right here at the end of this conclusion. He gave him twice of everything except wives. I think the one he had was enough, amen. But he had double children. He had double ox. I mean, so you start seeing this. And it's that twice as much as he had before. Then came there unto him all of his brethren and acquaintances, and ate bread with him in the house. They bemoaned him and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Do you remember how the whole story started? They're feasting with his kids that he had back then. But now they're gone. And just see, the Lord has blessed him. So the Lord blessed the latter end, verse 12, the end of Job, more than the what? Beginning. For he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels and 1,000 yoke of ox. He didn't give up, did he? He trusted. There were several people who were shut into a freezer, and during that freezer, nobody knew that they were there. The door is shut, and nobody'd be back for several days. And they know that they were going to die if they didn't get out. And man, they chipped and found whatever they could. Anyway, sad story, they died. And so they taken out the bodies. They moved some of the container because there were food and stuff that was in there, trying to move it around. And anyway, one of them kind of hit the wall right there. The wall cracked, and it opened up a hole about as big as your fist right there. Oxygen coming in. They died that close. Now let me tell you something. Is God enough? Yes, He is. Don't quit on God when you're that close. God's working something. Trust Him. Do you know why? And I'm telling you, I don't know all the reason why, but maybe He needs you to suffer a little bit so He can get a hold of our kids that are hard-headed, or our neighbors that are hard-headed, or see the glory of God, see where they can see that, you know what, I'm trusting the Lord in this, and somebody else gets saved by that. But all of it's for His glory. Amen. God is enough. Heads are bowed, eyes are closed. Musicians come, getting ready for the invitation. Let me tell you something. There's things that are on our hearts. There are things that are on our prayer list. There are things that you deal with daily. It's pretty simple. Is God enough to help you to get through it? Is God enough for you to see it through the end? Sometimes it seems unbearable. If we focus on the pain, if we focus on the hurt, we focus on the deficit, we focus on the disease, we focus on the death, we'll never make it. But we need to focus on the God that is enough. He is there. He has the power. He knows everything. And He is everywhere that we need Him. Heads are bowed, eyes are closed as you stand to your feet. Maybe hearing you say, Brother Scott, I need prayer today. Would you lift